I don't know how the Senate is supposed to work now because I think these changes are so fast. I can't hear it. If the Fed would cut, we would have one of the biggest stock market increases in a long time. Badly run and weak companies are smartly blaming these small tariffs instead of themselves for bad management. And who can really blame for doing that? Excuses. Guys, if you ever lose consciousness, if you ever knock yourself out, go to the fucking hospital. You have no fucking idea if you suffered a concussion or not.
What was it like when you first started? How did you get your first viewers? Like, how did you grow that channel to get people to notice you?
They're upset about McConnell doing it himself rather than the Republicans voting it down. I don't know if that matters. I mean, isn't that pretty normal that you don't call a vote on the floor if you don't think you have the votes to pass it? So do you think it would be okay to block all future judges? The nuclear option thing is really complicated, and I don't know who I call on blame for that, whether I blame the Democrats or the Republicans. That nuclear option for blocking... when the Republican Senate cheated Obama out of his Supreme Court nomination, this had been following escalations of Democrats threatened a nuclear option under Bush, I believe. I think Republicans flirted with the idea of it under Clinton. There's been a lot of back and forth on that, and then McConnell obviously took it to the extreme, and he used it to block. The Supreme Court justice. Which is unprecedented. I don't know how the Senate is supposed to work now because I think now that McConnell has done that, I think theoretically, here's my understanding of somebody can tell me if I'm wrong on this, but counter to congressional leadership blocking bills is that there's an argument for that being done through floor votes. If some Republicans/Democrats support a given bill, it's a little strange to allow caucus leadership to block a vote. Still, are there actual pieces of legislation that McConnell is blocking that would get enough votes to pass? Do you think that's true? Would you say it's right for a future Democratic president to increase the number of judges and stack the court? Court stacking just seems real dumb. I don't know. It seems like a path you don't want to go down. Yeah, I think, didn't FDR, I think FDR got a huge blowback from that, right? It wasn't blowback. Oh, well, okay. I've been arguing with some folks about the Senate as an institution. I argue generally that the Senate is a decent idea due to it representing a majority of the states, as well as helping ensure that the wants of rural voters are given some sway. What are your thoughts? I would be super curious to discuss the existence of the Senate or the Electoral College with somebody that has a big background in it. It's boring to talk about it now with progressives and lefties because they all screech the same thing, my vote's not represented. And I can't tell if they actually fundamentally disagree with the idea of representation in the states or if they're just ass mad because the states that they live in are the most populated and they don't have the ability to bully everybody else out in the government. I'm not actually sure. I really can't tell. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I've I think I've fallen in favor of I think I generally fall in favor of the Electoral College or the or the Senate, but I haven't really heard any compelling arguments against it other than I don't know. The Senate was modeled after the House of Lords in the UK, and that has changed a lot to where it's basically just a filter shit legislation. Wait, what? How is the Senate model? I could be totally fucking wrong here, but how is the Senate modeled after the House of Lords? Are you saying just because both things are bicameral, one is modeled after the other? Aren't most of the people in the House of Lords, at least prior to 20 years ago, they either inherited their position or they're just appointed? Whereas our Senate has always been elected on, no? Senators were appointed originally. When did U.S. start electing senators? Prior to its passage, senators were chosen by state legislatures. Okay, so even if we didn't elect them directly, I'm assuming that the body that is elected, the state legislature, is going to be the people that you elect, so they were indirectly elected. But they were never appointed by a president or a king, obviously, right? I'm guessing? Oh, the House of Lords can't even propose legislation. Gotcha. Wait, holy shit. This seems super cancerous. Did you see the new Adam Neely?
So you ever listen to a song and think, this song's fine and all, but it could really use some more jazz harmony? This song's fine and all, but it could really use some more jazz harmony. Don't worry, we have all been there. So in this video, we're going to be counting down the 7 levels of jazz harmony, starting from the most basic going to the most extreme. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to reharmonize a simple pop melody, Lizzo's Juice in D minor. This is what the original sounds like. Sounds pretty good to me, but even with that nice E flat over F in the second measure, that's not really jazz. This is what the jazz version would sound like. This is jazz harmony level 1. Jazz harmony level 1. Bell pepper.
It ain't my fault that I'm out here getting loose. Gotta blame it on the goose. Gotta blame it on the juice, baby.
So this is a fairly typical jazz chord progression. We're not using the basic triads anymore, but we're using richer 4-note 7th chords, like the first chord, a D minor 7. The next chords, C minor 7 and F7, aren't in the key of D minor. They are non-diatonic, but that's okay, because they are the second chord and 5th chord of the key of B flat, and they resolve to a B flat 6th chord. These 2-5 progressions are really the meat and potatoes
Smiley
of jazz
face.
harmony.
Greater than
They're a vehicle
Twitch,
for
chat.
tension and release and create a sense of forward momentum that gets us from one chord to the next. This sequence is rounded out by an E minor 7.
Wait, what's it called if you're doing a modulation and you've got chords that can be analyzed in both keys? What are these chords? Is it transition chords? I forget. Where's my 2 music theory guys in here?
5 and an A7, the 2 and 5 chords of the parent key of D minor. If we take a look at how the roots in this progression move on the circle of fifths, we see that, even if we skip around a little bit, things generally cycle stepwise to the left. This is fairly typical of the patterns that are found in jazz harmony. Jazz harmony level 3, jalapeno pepper.
It ain't my fault that I'm out here getting loose. Gotta blame it on the goose. Gotta blame it on the juice, baby.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. One of the most difficult things I have with jazz harmonization is that sometimes the chords move way too fast and I can't hear it at all. There is a lot of like classic like jazz songs that I don't have an ear for it. I ask this question every single time on stream. What is there's the name of like the one jazz song that everybody is supposed to know. You're supposed to be able to play the changes to this song. And I always forget it. Oh, it's not Giant Steps. Oh, it might be. It's not. Is it Giant Steps? Is Giant Steps the same as some other song? Does Giant Steps take the changes from another song? Am I crazy? Oh, Rhythm Changes. That's the one I'm thinking of. Giant Steps is pretty standard too, but Rhythm Changes was the one I was thinking of. But like, these changes are so fast, I just can't. I can't hear it. Giant Steps is notoriously difficult. No one's expected to play this. I thought I think Rhythm Changes is the one that I thought that like this is supposed to be one that you're supposed to be able to like. Is that the name of the song? I don't know, dude. Like fucking like 2-note like chord changes is too much for me. I can't keep up with it. I can't keep up with it.
All right, so there is definitely some more spice happening here.
Not like mentally, but like aurally. Like I just can't, it doesn't sound good to me. I don't have time to like settle in.
And the reason for that is jazz harmony often uses
Chat,
what are
wait till
called
he gets to level 6
In Western
Pepalon.
music, we build different kinds of chords by stacking different kinds of thirds on top of one another. This is called tertiary harmony. We can extend chords through chord extensions by overstacking thirds up and up without changing the basic identity of the chord. At the core of it, though, these chord progressions are just colorful versions of the meat and potato 2-5 progressions. They're just dressed up in fancy clothes. Like, for example, this A7, flat 9, sharp 11, flat 13 is just an A7 chord, but like wearing a gaudy hat or something. This level is perfect for big band, where you have a lot of different musicians available to play a lot of different extensions. Artists like, of course, Duke Ellington and later Thad Jones created dense and rich layers of harmony with their orchestras. Now, in order to reach the next level, we kind of have to leave the 2-5 progression behind. We have to move away from the meat and potatoes of jazz harmony and get into something a little crunchier.
It ain't my fault that I'm out here getting loose. Gotta blame it on the goose. Gotta blame it on the juice.
Also, I know that like for some people they're like in love with like anytime you can arrange something and you can get like chromatic movements. Like, it seems like, oh, God, it's so cool. Look at it. But, like, I don't know, dude. It doesn't sound good to me. I hate it so much.
Jazz harmony level 5, habanero pepper.
It ain't my fault that I'm out here getting loose. Gotta blame it on the goose. Gotta blame it on the juice, baby.
Okay, now
What are chromatic movements? Well, like, Oh fuck. Let's see if can we do this in like 2 seconds? Okay, so basically, like, let's say that we've got a chord, okay? Let's say that we've got like a C chord, okay?
Ski by dibby dib yo da dub dubio da dub dub. I'm the scat man.
Cool. If we want to move this C chord up to an F chord, right? Okay. So like, let's say that we want to do this, okay? So we've got C, we've got E, we've got G, and we've got C. Okay, now we want to move it up. Let's move it up to F. F, A, C, E. Now, wait, not E, F. Sorry, major sevenths. Okay. Wow, cool. Okay, so from one chord to the next. However, isn't it kind of ugly that we just moved the whole chord up? Isn't there a cooler way that we could make this sound, right? So when you arrange it, what you actually want to do is you want to try to get like the... there's a lot of different stuff going on here. So like, just take my word for it, okay? So like, one thing we like is when the bass moves up and the other notes move down. Wow, it sounds good to have this contrary motion. So maybe your C here, because it's the bass, maybe it does go up to an F, right? And you're trying to do like FAC, so maybe this C comes down to an A, maybe this G goes down to an F, and then maybe this E goes down to a C, right? So you've got this nice contrary movement. All the notes like didn't move that much. Like if you were singing a normal song, you don't want to sing like right? You want the voices to be moving relatively close together, right? And then like it works, right? You've got right. Contrary movement is generally good in arranging, okay? Contrary movement. And then also like the notes moving like relatively close to one another, right? Well, so like imagine if instead of moving whole steps or sometimes even like thirds, what if we could like move things because we have this workout on paper where it's like, oh God, what if we move things chromatically and like everything is like barely fucking moving, and God, it would just be so fucking cool. I don't think this explanation is making sense to almost anybody. Just people get really excited sometimes, like right here, look at that, E flat up to E up to F. Oh, it's so chromatic, and then F up to E. Oh, and then down to F sharp. Oh my God, it's so chromatic. Oh, cool, it's so cool. It's like, okay, I mean, like it is, but like chromatic movements, at least in my opinion, I think chromatic movements sound very, very, very strong. Like you hear, like even if you don't have like a name for it, you can't recognize it. Like when you hear a chromatic movement, like whoa, you definitely hear something, and sometimes it's really cool. Like there are forms of chromatic movements. I think I've used this example before. Like I think there's like a Zelda boss song. I'm trying to think of like what I think it's just like. Like that's a chromatic movement, right? I don't know how to explain it, but like it has a particular sound to it, in my opinion. But like when you try to just like, I'm not saying, dude, everything I'm saying is so subjective right now, okay? Holy shit. Don't take this to your music theory teacher and be like, hey, counterpoint guy, okay? Destiny, by the way, that dropped out of music school, he said that chromatic movement is shit. So don't say that, okay? I'm just saying that like, when you like over chromaticize the fuck out of all of your harmonization, I feel like I'm losing, like, I want to hear like chords. That's like the important part. I want to hear chords so that it tells me what the melody is supposed to sound like. I didn't need all this like crazy baggage of like chromatic movements that's
Jazz
like
harmony level 5, habanero pepper.
it's actually oh fuck. I love this guy, but sometimes fuck. There are so many memes that I guess Shantastic is in chat. You can follow me a little. But like sometimes when you're like arranging something for like an assignment and you have like the slickest fucking way, you're like, oh my fucking God. Like if I do this modulation, fucking 3 out of 4 of my notes are only moving a fucking half step. Oh God, it works out so well on paper. And like you play it and it kind of sounds like shit, but like, oh my God, on paper, it looks so fucking cool. It works so well on paper. And you're like, oh, fuck it, dude, I'm keeping this shit. Sometimes I feel like,
GG rules. Twitch chat rules.
Yeah. Like you.
when they play stuff like, I don't even know if it's chromatic movement or whatever, but like some of this harmonization, I just can't hear it at all. I totally don't. I just can't hear it.
Okay. We could talk about some stuff. I've been doing an F.
I used to struggle hard with this. I'd have 4 gorgeous thematic chord tones moving in their own little phrase, and the chords individually were nice, but the chord progression was completely incoherent, and none of that nuance mattered worth shit. Yeah, like, Yeah, because sometimes you get so caught up like on the paper, right? Or on paper, you have like the fucking sickest chord progression with the best resolution. And on paper, it just works out so fucking well. Your pivot chord, that's what they're called, pivot chords. Your pivot chords and everything are perfect. Your modulation makes so much fucking sense. And there might even be like a greater like harmonic structure like to the piece that works like in some given phrase. But then when you actually sit down and play it, you're like, oh God, I can't hear it at all. Like I'm trying to listen
You
to like the
will
cool
die if you
ideas
do
that I have on
this.
paper, but it doesn't sound good. Yeah, I don't know.
If we take a look at the second chord in the progression, D flat major 9, it's not in the key of D minor 9. The second chord in the progression,
I've been very lax about correctly naming chords in this video. This should be D flat major 7, 9 sharp 11. Okay.
D flat major 9, it's not in the key of D minor, nor does it point to any particular key. One way to think about it is that this chord is not the result of any other chord. It exists purely because the melody note C works well with the chord because it's the chord's major 7th. By the time we've reached level 5, musicians just aren't formalizing their harmonic choices as much. Instead, they're pretty much relying purely on their experienced ears to guide them with their aesthetic decisions. Now, by the late 1960s, the jazz...
Okay, I feel like this is like two people. I don't like what he says here. You're relying on your ear to guide your compositional or your harmonization choices. Okay, but you just told me the reason why you're picking this chord here is because the C happens to be the 7th of a D flat major 7 chord. Like, it doesn't sound like you're using your ear. It sounds like you're using your brain. It sounds like you're just saying like, hey, well, I like C. C is the 7th of a D flat major 7 chord. But C fits into a billion different chords. Why specifically a D flat major 9? Because the best notes to play are the 5ths and the 7ths, okay? Listen, okay? This is what it sounds like if you play roots, okay? Nobody likes the roots, okay? Thirds are a little better. Then 5ths are more interesting. But 7ths is where all the cool kids hang out, okay? Sevenths are where all the cool kids. So if you have a chord and you're trying to like figure out like wait, hold on. Like, oh, like what notes should I play over this change? Just play the 5th or the 7th, dude.
Level 5.
Or 9s. Oh yeah, if you want to go real hard, the higher the number, the better. Okay, the higher the number, because okay, 3rd minor is cool, 5th is cool, 7 that's real cool. But what about? But we can go all the way up to the 9. Ooh. That's a 9. Something. 9s are really cool too, though. Yeah, but playing 7s, typically, if you're like, if you're, this is very subjective, loose advice. But like if you're soloing over something, hanging out on like the 5ths and the 7ths and the 9s if you want, or seconds, right? 2nd and 9 is kind of sort of the same thing, but not really. It's like, that's like the, in my opinion, this is so subjective right now, but that's like where the most interest is in terms of like a melody, is usually hanging around like the 5ths or the 7ths or the 9s. And then if you're coming to the end of a melody, then moving down to like the root or whatever, or is fine.
Destiny, it's because your taste of music is the same as your taste of food. It's uncultured and untrained, and you eat like a child. Which is why you only listen to modal non-functional harmony.
Dude, you typed this message in my chat like 7 times, and I ignored you every time. And then you said, I'm going to donate $5 to him. I'm about to donate $5 just to shut up. Like, I'm reading your message. I just didn't respond. I don't know why you felt the need to donate to it, but thanks, buddy.
Examples of level 6 harmony might be Bob Grettinger's arrangements for the Stan Kenton Orchestra's album City of Glass, or maybe anything by Dave Liebman.
This is also like super subjective, but I feel like some of this extended harmony stuff works a lot better when you have like the different timbres of like a big band. And hearing that extended harmony between like trumpets and trombones and saxophones, it sounds a little better than hearing it on a fucking piano. So that's one of the reasons why some of these might sound like so horrible, is because like the same timbre for this many conflicting chords is not going to have the same sound as if you hear it like in the presence of a larger group.
He's a spicy boy. So now we've jumped completely off the deep end. How are we supposed to get to the final level? Oh, Miles Davis, Prince of Darkness, show us the way. Show us how to not play the butter notes. Show us the way to jazz level 7. Jazz harmony level 7.
Oh no. Are we going full Jacob Collier?
All right, so what is going on here? Well, this is an example of intonalism, where the chords have been tuned to the melody. So the melody has stayed in our normal 12-tone equal-tempered system that we all know and love, but the chords have been tuned to just intonation ratios based on the harmonic functions of the melody notes that they're paired with. For example, the G here on this A minor 7 is the minor 7th of the chord. Now there are different just intonation ratios that can be used for minor 7ths depending on the context, but this one we used a 9-to-5 ratio. This 9-to-5 ratio happens to be about 18 cents sharp from its equal.
Okay, to be clear, I don't think anybody in jazz actually does this, right? This is like exclusively. I've heard like Jacob talk about this a little bit, but I could be wrong, but I've never in my life seen. Well, I mean, I wouldn't have played in a group that would have even had music this advanced, but I've never seen like a chart that calls for like this level of intonation change.
Tempered counterpart. So, to compensate, the chord has to be detuned by 18 cents just to make sure that the G of the melody is still an equal temperament. That's the basic idea behind the process. We tune the just intonated chords to the equal tempered melody. But some interesting things can happen when we use different ratios for the same interval. For example, we could use 7-to-4 for G on this A7 sharp.
Can you hear that logic? Yeah, it's we're getting into such esoteric music topics. I think this guy should
This is
explain.
the sound and visual image of a pure harmonic third, an A and a C sharp.
Yeet.
This is the tempered version, as played by a modern piano or guitar, clearly out of tune. This is the pure harmonic fifth, an A and an E. And the tempered version of a fifth, again, out of tune. When we put these mistuned tempered intervals together in a major chord, you can hear the rough and restless quality that Helmholtz referred to. The pure chord rings true, every interval in perfect harmonic balance.
Basically, the problem is that, like, for our music system, I don't need to write this out. Basically, we kind of like chopped up all the intervals on a major chord so that everything kind of works with everything else. But the problem is that, like, it leaves some notes, some intervals sounding a little bit less than perfect. So like, if we were to graph out like maybe this is like a C, what a C looks like, and maybe.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say I like your stream, Destiny.
Thanks. Maybe an octave for a C. Oh God, can I do this? I'm so bad at fucking drawing. An octave for a C might look like this. Is this correct? Something like that? I don't know. Whatever. Are these called periods? What's it called from like one end of the, like, what is this called?
Yee.
Is it called a period? Like on an octave, the period is going to be half the distance, half the axis or whatever, because it's twice as fast. half the time, half the length, right? So like you'd have like a ratio between the pitches here, right? So like an octave. So like let's say we have some note is A 440 or whatever, right? The octave to A would be 880, right? And the closer.
When are we doing more house reviews?
Cool. I don't know. I don't even know what that means. The closer that these numbers are to like to like whole numbers, the nicer they sound in the ear, I guess, for reasons that are complicated. But like 5 to 7 might be a good, I don't remember if that's a major third or a perfect fifth or what. But like typically when we get into like because of the way it's all even tempered, this is so complicated. I don't know if I can explain this in 2 minutes. But basically how it sounds right now with the way that we chopped up the scale, like a major third might be instead of like 1 to 1 whatever, it's like some ugly decimal, and you can hear the way that it kind of rattles a little bit in the ear, but that's to keep everything kind of working, because if you don't do that, then things get real fucking complicated and fuck everything else. Okay, sorry.
9. 7 to 4 is 33 cents flat from its equal tempered counterpart, so we have to tune the whole chord up 33 cents to keep the G of the melody in equal temperament. We think of the roots for both of these chords as A, but because the minor sevenths are defined differently and G stays the same in the melody, the root notes are almost exactly a quarter tone apart.
But no one cares about this shit. Okay. If the Fed would cut, we would have one of the biggest stock market increases in a long time. Badly run and weak companies are smartly blaming these small tariffs instead of themselves for bad management, and who can really blame for doing that? Excuses. This is so crazy. It's not crazy, it's boring. Badly run and weak companies are smartly blaming these new taxes instead of themselves for bad management. That's what a Democrat would say if we were talking about raising taxes. Tariffs are consumption taxes. Tariffs are taxes that consumers pay for on goods.
First time DGG subscription. I think my life is about to change.
It is. I'm like super shocked that I guess people don't care about. Like tariffs are literally taxes. I don't understand, but okay.
Dab, 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 dab.
Get your subs out of the way now, because when this debate starts, I'm muting all
He
you fuckers,
wins.
so. Tariffs aren't literally taxes. Well, okay. Well, actually, well, if we look at the dictionary definition of literally, used for emphasis or to express strong feeling while not being literally true. So the updated dictionary actually agrees with me, motherfucker.
It would have gone to waste anyway.
Wait, does a tariff count as an import tax? Is that literally how it's classified? Wait, actually, hold on. I might be right. Literally and literally. See how I use both definitions there? I'm seeing the word tax in here a lot, okay? But linguistic descriptivism is cancer? Implying a prescriptivist? Lingual prescription is not only dead, it was never alive. It's a fucking fantasy, okay? Language comes from the people, not from a book. Live with it, loser. Make fun of the book nerd.
Pogu.
My dad fucking fell and knocked himself out. And now he doesn't want to go to the hospital because he's afraid he'll miss work tomorrow. Guys, if you ever lose consciousness, if you ever knock yourself out, go to the fucking hospital. You have no fucking idea if you suffered a concussion or not, or if you need like more medical treatment. Even if you wake up and you feel fine, if you get knocked out, go to the fucking hospital. Like, fuck, holy shit. Is he going to the hospital? No, he wants to go to sleep so he can work tomorrow. Probably fucking die in his sleep. Holy shit. Call your mom. Yeah, well, I just talked to my mom and dad. My dad doesn't want to go. My mom said she'll try to take him, which means no, because she always buckles to my dad. How old is my dad? I don't know, in his 60s? Why would he call? No, he didn't call. I got an email from my mom saying that he hit the back of his head and was knocked out. That's why I stepped away to call. I thought I muted my stream, but I didn't. I only muted the other call. So I've read a lot that you shouldn't go to sleep if you have a concussion. I don't think that going to sleep with a concussion is necessarily bad. The problem is that if you go to sleep and you do have a concussion, if you start displaying more symptoms, you're not going to see them because you're going to be fucking sleeping. So for instance, if you have like, if your eyesight starts to get shit, if you're like feeling very weak, I think like if you can't walk straight, if you start to like slur your words, you can't speak well, right? If you take a nap or you go to sleep after you like hit your head, if you start displaying these symptoms, you're not going to display them. You're not going to know, right? That's why you're not supposed to sleep after you like get knocked out for a little bit. Well, if you get knocked out, My understanding is that any time you've lost consciousness, whether partially or fully, for any period of time, even if you get knocked out and you wake up in like 2 seconds, you have to go to the hospital. You're supposed to go to the hospital. Just go to the hospital and get checked out. My parents even have full like fucking insurance. They have TRICARE. They have military insurance. My dad's retired military. Did you offer to pay for the hospital? No, there's nothing to pay. It's free. Like, just 1 day of work. Oh, mom said they're going to the emergency room. Okay. Fuck, dude. I'm not taking care of... Have my mom living with me while she's fucking has Alzheimer's? Fuck that shit. I'm not going through that. That sounds like some horrible fucking shit. My dad has to stay alive so he can deal with that bullshit.
Hi.
Fuck that. Just 1 day of work, he works? Yeah, of course. This is America. We work till we're 75, till we got 1 foot in the grave.
Hey, I have a serious question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
In the early days of streaming, like, you always get the questions about, you know, how'd you get your start and all that. But, like, what was it like when you first started? How did you get your first viewers? Like, how did you grow that channel to get people to notice you?
Organically advertising across like Reddit and like DJ, KSP or whatever, like was really important. That stuff's not as important anymore. Reddit is way too monitored now and too many people are trying to get in. But
Yeah, that kind of like cross promotion across different forums helped early on, and then being like a first mover, like early.
Yeah, I imagine, like, with the site not having that many people,
Mhm.
that helped a lot. Do you think if I leak more nudes, like, that'll get me
It's possible.
a bump?
Anything's possible if you believe, okay?
I like that kind of attitude, buddy. When you're on the Raj show and it's the last round and you're against Slicker, how invested are you in winning that? Like, does it actually bother you when you lose it? Especially with him just sitting there quiet the whole time?
I don't know. I don't really care that much. I don't ever lose sleep over winning or losing the Rod show. That's all for memes. Okay. Cocaine is like, it's pretty much the exact same thing as like Ritalin and shit. Like sometimes when Nathan was like being too hyperactive before school, I just have him snort a line or two before heading to class, and it would just chill him right the fuck out. He'd be like, yeah, feels like Vyvanse, Dad. Thanks.
Thanks, Dad.